Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Today we're going to be doing our weekly Braves review. I try to do this once a week because I know of several people who have subscribed to the channel who are Braves fans. Today I'm even going to mention the Chicago Cubs. Now I may not do this every week, but I do know for sure that I have two people that I work with that are Cubs fans. And I told them that since they subscribed to the channel, I would mention their Cubs on my Braves report this week. I may do it every week, I may not. But I try to be a man of my word, so I am going to talk about the Cubs a little bit this week. Not going to say much about them. One of the guys I know is from Chicago, so I know why he is a Cubs fan. The other guy, I'm not quite sure why he's a Cubs fan unless he thinks since he pulls for Clemson in football and they win all the time, he's got to pull for a loser in baseball. I'm really not sure. No, I'm just kidding. It really doesn't matter to me, but I don't know why he's a Cubs fan, but I'm just being funny. But both teams actually had very successful weeks, and both teams right now are actually pretty much doing the same thing. They're both playing around 500 ball. They'll win a couple, they'll lose a couple. They'll win a few, they'll lose a few. And they've both pretty much done the same thing all year long. Of course, when they've played each other, the Braves have gotten the better of the Cubs by far. But for the season, both teams are pretty much playing right on par with each other. They're both actually also in third place in their divisions. The difference is the Braves are only 1.5 games out, and the Cubs are 3.5 games out in their division. Of course, the leader of the Braves division is the Mets. It was the Phillies until the Braves took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies over the weekend. And the leader of the Cubs division is the Cardinals. And you see the Cardinals roster, and they nowhere near have the roster they used to have, but they still somehow, some way find a way to win. At least they have up until this point. But the Braves went 5-1 this past week, and I was very excited when they beat the Nationals, and they beat them pretty handily Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then when they got ready to play the Phillies over the weekend, they got destroyed on Friday. And the way the Braves have played so far this year, when they won Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then lost Friday, I said, watch, they're going to lose Saturday, and they're going to lose Sunday. But they actually won Saturday, and they won Sunday, so they went 5-1 on the week, which is a pretty good way to catch whoever leads the division. They've just got to figure out what's wrong with Charlie Morton. I know I've said it before, but Charlie Morton started his career with the Braves, and he was, I'm not going to say terrible, but he was mediocre at best. And he leaves and goes to the Phillies and the Astros and the Rays, and he's good all 3 places, and then he comes back to the Braves, and he's garbage. So hopefully they'll figure out what's wrong with him before they get Mike Soroka back, because that will be at least another month. But I think it's pretty clear that the Braves' ace so far this year has been Huascar Ynoa. He already has 4 wins. He picked up the win last night when the Braves won 6-1 on the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week. Not only does he have 4 wins on the mound, he also has 2 home runs, including a grand slam. So he's pitching great, but he's also hitting great. On the days he pitches, he's also the Braves' best hitter that day, especially with him hitting 9th right now and Christian Pache hitting 8th, and Pache's hitting like 107. So Ynoa is definitely the best hitter at the bottom of the lineup on the days he pitches. I know before the year started, I predicted that Acuna would lead off and Freeman would bat second and Ozuna would bat third, and it took about 2 weeks to get to that spot, but that's exactly where they are. And I also said d'Arnaud would bat cleanup, but of course he's out now for at least 2 months, so they had to call up William Contreras, and they sent down Alex Jackson because Alex Jackson just flat out can't hit. But the Braves made a lot of roster moves over the past week. Not many folks are talking about them because they're winning, and as long as you're winning, nobody's going to talk about what you're doing behind the scenes. But they signed Nate Jones in the offseason to be a reliever, and he had about 2 or 3, maybe 4 good appearances, and then he just fell apart. They actually DFA'd him last week, and if you're not sure what that means designate for assignment. Basically, it means you have 10 days to try to trade the player, and if you can't find a trade that you like or they like in those 10 days, they either agree to go to your minor league system or you have to release them. So they have about 4 days left to do that, because I believe that happened last Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll have about till Thursday or Friday to either trade him, and if they can't find somebody that he wants to go to or somebody they want to send him to, he'll have to either go to Gwinnett or the Braves will just release him. And then they signed a former Cubs reliever who was on the 2016 Cubs World Series team, Carl Edwards Jr. He made 1 appearance and gave up 3 runs in a third of an inning, and then they turned around and released him. And now they've called up Jorge De La Cruz. They also sent Sean Newcomb back down to the minor leagues, and then they finally went out and did the right thing and signed Shane Green. They just signed him yesterday for the remainder of the year. He was on the team last year, and he was one of their best, if not their best reliever outside of Mark Melancon, but he was asking for a lot of money, and the Braves are trying to avoid giving him that huge contract. They just tried to bring in 3 or 4 guys and pay them the minimum and basically fork out the same amount of money they were going to be paying Shane Green by himself. But Chris Morton has been out with an injury all year long, and Sean Newcomb was inconsistent. They already released Nate Jones. Tyler Matzek's been inconsistent, so they really don't have a middle reliever. So they went ahead and did the right thing and signed Shane Green. Maybe he'll be ready to go tomorrow night. The Braves and the Cubs both back on the mound tomorrow night. The Braves played 3 with the Blue Jays, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday got 3 with the Brewers. The Cubs are off tonight, and then they have a 2-game series with the Indians. Then they're off again on Thursday, and then they'll play the Detroit Tigers on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the Cubs should have a successful week, because the Indians are average, and Detroit is the worst team in baseball. They finally got their 10th win of the season yesterday. They were the last team to reach double-digit wins on the year. And like I said, the Braves are a game and a half out of first place. But they usually always play good against the Mets, and they'll finally play the Mets for the first time this year next week. So as long as they can keep the Mets within striking distance, they should gain some ground on them next week. And the Cubs have the Indians for 2 games, Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the Tigers 3 games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Cubs just have to figure out what they're going to do with their starting pitching. I know earlier I was talking about 2 of the guys I work with being Cubs fans. Well, one of them's name is Matthew, and him and I was talking, and I told him that the Cubs' ace pitcher right now is Kyle Hendricks. And Kyle Hendricks ain't bad, but he ain't great. But when Kyle Hendricks is your ace pitcher, you have no starting pitching. And if you recall, the Cubs actually let Kyle Schwarber go in the offseason. He signed with the Nationals. He's now playing left field with the Nationals and pinch hitting a lot off the bench. They tried to trade Chris Bryant, but nobody wanted him. But this is the last year of Chris Bryant's deal. So to me, if you're already trying to trade him in the offseason, that tells me they're not bringing Chris Bryant back. It's also the last year of Javier Baez's deal, and it's also the last year of Anthony Rizzo's deal. If I had to pick one of those 3 players they bring back, I would say maybe Anthony Rizzo. But Jason Hayward's deal goes through next year. But if they go ahead and let Bryant go and let Baez go and let Rizzo go, they may as well just go ahead and trade Hayward too and just start over again, because Hayward can't do it all by himself. You've already lost Schwarber. If you lose Baez and Bryant and Rizzo as well, then Hayward has no sense in being there for one more year for a terrible, terrible baseball team. Now, if you recall, the Cubs finally won the World Series for the first time in 108 years back in 2016. And a lot of people thought it was going to be their first of many. I didn't think that, because in my personal opinion, the 2 reasons why the Cubs won the World Series that year was John Lester and Aroldis Chapman. Without those two guys, I don't think they would have won the World Series in 2016. And they let both those guys go. And, of course, they've gotten a little bit worse each year ever since then. I'm also not a big fan of David Ross. I think he might have been ready in a few more years if they'd have let him get some experience down to the minor leagues. But I don't think he was ready to come in and take over a professional club right away. But they did it. But I'm not a big fan of the David Ross hire. I think they should have gone with Ryan Sandberg. But like I said, they've still got Craig Kimbrell. He's not as dominant as he was with the Braves, but he's still really good. But if they don't get some starting pitching, then Craig Kimbrell has no purpose because his only purpose is to close out the game. But just like the Braves division is pitiful, the Cubs division is also pitiful. It might be a little bit better, but if it is, it ain't much better. I would say the National League East and the National League Central both in both divisions, probably 87 or 88 wins is going to be enough to win the division. It wouldn't be in most years, but it will be this year. And when they've played each other, the Braves definitely got the better of the Cubs. But for the most part, they're both the same exact team. I would say the Braves starting pitching is better than the Cubs, but I would say the Cubs relief pitching is better than the Braves relief pitching. Hopefully that changes now that the Braves have shined Shane Green, and Will Smith looks like he's finally turned it around. And then I would take the Braves hitting all day long over the Cubs hitting, because half the Cubs lineup is just flat out terrible. I think David Bodie's hitting like 190, Hayward's hitting like 170, Ian Happ's hitting like 120. And then Wilson Contreras is normally a really good hitting catcher, and this year he's hitting like 205. And then Freddie Freeman for the Braves had a home run last night. He's already got 8 home runs, but he's only hitting like 210. But like I've said before, Freddie Freeman is a notoriously slow starter. He'll be fine. So as he gets hot and Ozuna gets hot, the Braves lineup from top to bottom is a whole lot better than the Cubs. But I do think the Cubs bullpen is a whole lot better than the Braves bullpen. So this week on our Braves review, we got the Braves review and a little bit of the Cubs review. And let me know what you think about the Cubs. If you think they're going to re-sign any of the three between Baez, Rizzo, and Bryant. I think if they re-sign one of them, I think it'll be Anthony Rizzo. I think he's the best of those three players, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't sign him because he's going to want the most of those three players, and they bring Baez back because he's not going to ask for as much as Bryant or as Rizzo. I've always thought Chris Bryant was overrated. He got so much hype coming out of the minor leagues, and he gets to the Cubs, and he hits 250. He's not Bryce Harper overrated, but I still think he's overrated. So if he asks for anything near what Bryce Harper asked for, he's crazy, because he's not as overrated as Bryce Harper is, but he also doesn't have the name recognition that Bryce Harper does. Bryce Harper is going to hit 260, and he's going to have 25 home runs and 80 RBIs, but for some reason, everybody makes like Bryce Harper some great, phenomenal baseball player. Nobody even puts Chris Bryant in the same category as Bryce Harper. So Bryce Harper is overpaid, but at least he has that name recognition. Chris Bryant's just, so he is not nowhere near as good as he was supposed to be. So I don't think the Cubs will re-sign him, but maybe I'm wrong. But let me know your thoughts on that. Before we get out of here for the day, I'll give you my dad joke of the day. Why is the mushroom always invited to parties? Because he's a fun guy. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.